Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Nurul Aini, and in this video I will present a journal article related to global Englishes. The title of the article that I read is The Coloniality of Native Speakerism by Ronnie Tupas, published in the journal Asian English in 2022. This article discusses important issues related to how English continues to be taught using native speaker norms, and those norms are connected to colonial history, especially in countries like the Philippines. It critically explores how the idea of native speaker superiority in still influence English education today, despite the fact that English is now a global language. Let's begin with the introduction section of the article. The article begins by discussing native speakerism remains a dominant ideology in English language teaching, particularly it's in post-colonial societies like the Philippines. This ideology assumes that native speakers of English, typically white, Western individuals, are the most legitimate and authoritative users of the language. The author critically explores how this belief system is not just linguistic preference but deeply rooted in historical structures of colonialism. The authors, Ruani Tupas, aims to investigate the lingering effects of colonialism, what she refers to as coloniality, on the way is taught and perceived in the Philippines. Despite the continuous shape teacher hiring, language policy, and classroom expectations. The purpose of the study the purpose of the study is to unpack how colonial power still influences language education today, not through political rule but through ideologies that were internalized during the colonial era. By analyzing how native speakerism functions in educational context, the author highlights the unequal power relation it sustains. In the context of global Englishes, is the study highlights the need to shift perspectives from idealizing native speakers to recognizing the diverse ways English is used around the world. As English is no longer owned by a single group, its teaching and learning should reflect global realities than colonial standards. The second one is result or finding sections. The key finding the study indicate that native speakerism is still widespread in English language education in the Philippines, even though the country has its own long-standing relationship with English. According to the result, Filipino teachers over internalize the idea that native English speakers are better teachers, which leads to a lack of confidence in their own abilities, even when they are highly skilled and experienced. One significant finding is that this ideology is not only imposed from the outside but also maintained from the within. Filipino educators themselves may strive to emulate native speaker norms such as American or British pronunciation, even if it doesn't align with their local identity or student needs. This shows that colonial mindsets continue to operate through social expectation and institutional practices. These findings suggest that native speakerism acts as a form of symbolic power, shaping perception of who is considered qualified or legitimate. It also demonstrates how language teaching becomes a site where colonial ideologies are and repeated and reinforced often without being questioned. In relation to global English, the data shows that this mindset is limiting. English is now a global language used by speakers from a wide range of cultural, social, and linguistic backgrounds. Clinging to native speakers' norms is not only unrealistic but also unfair. The findings support that the idea that English education should embrace variety and promote linguistic equality. The third one is key concept or theory sections. The article used the concept of coloniality, which refers to the ongoing influence of the colonial structure in the modern system. Even after political independence, in this case, it explains how English language teaching continues to be shaped by colonial hierarchies that favor native speakers. The study contributes to the discussion on English language ideology, especially the beliefs that native English is superior to local or non-native varieties. This ideology affects how teachers see themselves and how students are taught to perceive English. A major theoretical framework used is linguistic imperialism, which is the idea that the spread of English has often gone hand in hand with the dominance of certain cultures and the marginalization of others, even though English is now is English is now global. The way it's taught still tends to the privilege a small group of speakers, reinforcing inequality. The notion of the language ownership is also central to this study because it questions who has the right to define, teach, and or modify English. The author argues that English belongs to everyone who use it, not just to native speakers. In terms of global Englishes, the concept helps explain why promoting diverse English varieties is crucial. Recognizing multiple forms of English empowers learners. Recognizing multiple forms of English empowers learners and teachers worldwide, especially in post-colonial countries like the Philippines. So the last section is conclusion section. The authors conclude that native speakerism is not only a simple matter of language preference, it is a deeply embedded ideology and colonial ideology that counters the shape education system and social attitudes. It leads to the marginalization of local teachers and the undervaluing of local Englishes varieties. One implication of study that we must actively work to decolonize English language education. This includes revising teacher training, curriculums, and hiring practices to reflect the diversity of English and the legitimacy of all its users. The conclusion highlights the urgent need to rethink what it means to be a qualified English teacher in a global context. Instead of idealizing native speakers, the focus should be shifted towards communicative effectiveness, culture awareness, and local relevance. This study suggests future research on how native speakerism functions in other post-colonial contexts and how educators can resist these ideologies through classroom practices and institutional change. For the educators and policymakers, the result may indicate that English teaching should no longer aim to reproduce colonial standards, but rather foster confidence, inclusivity, and a sense of ownership among all users of English, especially those in the global south. And to conclude, this article has helped me understand more deeply how colonial history still influences how English is taught and what it as a qualified teachers, as a qualified English users or teachers, I found this article insightful because it shows that native speakerism is not just a linguistic issue, it's also about power, race, and identity. In Indonesian context, the study is especially relevant because we also experience similar challenges where English is often taught as if British or American English is the only correct form. This research reminds us that English belongs to all of us, and that that our own way of using English is also valid and meaningful. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching my video. I hope it gives you some insight to global Englishes and how English is evolving in today's world. Okay, maybe enough from me. See you later. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Goodbye.